The sound beneath the hood. The sky was gray when KeanuReeves pulled over on the side of a quiet road. In a small California town, his old motorcycle had started making a strange ticking sound. It wasn't loud, but it wasn't right. Keanu wasn't one to ignore small problems, not in his bike and definitely not in life. He pulled off his gloves slowly, listening to the ticking continue even after the engine stopped. A gas station stood nearby, but it was closed. Beside it was a rusty garage with an old faded sign that read, "Honest Hands Auto." Below it, in white paint, were the words "family owned since 1972. Keanu walked toward it, helmet tucked under his arm. He liked small places like these. They reminded him of people who worked hard without asking for attention. As he stepped inside, the scent of grease and oil greeted him like an old friend. Tools hung on the wall with care. Tires were stacked neatly in the corner. And at the back of the garage, bent over an engine with dark grease on her fingers, stood a girl. She looked no older than 20. Her hair was tied back into a messy bun. Her jeans were torn at the knees, not for fashion, but from real work. She didn't look up when she spoke. "We're about to close. If it's something quick, I can check." Keanu smiled. He didn't mind her bluntness. "My bike's making a ticking sound. Might be nothing. Might be something worse." The girl finally turned around, and for a moment, her eyes froze, not because she recognized him. She didn't. It was something else, like life had taught her to be cautious around strangers, especially those with expensive bikes and quiet smiles. "Pull it in," she said. "I'll take a look." Keanu rolled the bike in slowly. She watched, with practiced eyes. Her hands moved quickly once she popped the seat open. The ticking grew louder. "Valves are loose," she said after a few moments. "Might be worn down, or just dry. Give me an hour." Keanu nodded. He didn't ask for her name. He just sat down on an old wooden bench near the wall and watched as she worked. There was a kind of rhythm to her hands. She didn't rush, but she didn't waste time either. It was like the tools were part of her. She didn't talk unless she had to, and even then, her voice was calm, almost tired. 30 minutes passed, then 45. She stood up finally, wiped her hands on a rag, and nodded. "Try it now." Keanu started the bike. The ticking was gone. The engine purred like a well-fed cat. He looked back at her, impressed. "You fixed it." She shrugged. "Not a big deal." He reached for his wallet and asked gently, "How much do I owe you?" The girl hesitated. Then she said, $280, parts and time." Keanu didn't even blink. He pulled out $300 and handed it to her. She took it with both hands, but she didn't smile. Then something strange happened. Her voice broke. "You don't know what this means to me." Keanu tilted his head. She looked away, her shoulders tense. And then she said something he wasn't prepared for. "My little sister hasn't eaten in 2 days." The air grew heavy. Keanu's hands slowly lowered. The garage felt colder suddenly, as if those few words had changed everything. "I only had enough for rent," she said quietly. "I was hoping for one customer today, just one." Thank you for being that one." Keanu didn't speak for a long time, not because he didn't care, but because he did. Too much. He finally asked, "What's your name, Elena?" He nodded, and for the first time in a long while, Keanu felt something inside his chest tighten in a way he couldn't explain. He had come in for a bike repair, but he had found something else here. A quiet story hidden beneath grease-stained fingers, a story of survival, of struggle, of strength. And this was just the beginning. A sandwich, a secret, and silences. Next morning, Keanu couldn't stop thinking about Elena. He had ridden back to his hotel in silence, but his thoughts had stayed in that little garage. It wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it. Like she had swallowed her pride so many times, it had turned to stone in her chest. He ordered 2 sandwiches from the cafe downstairs, one for himself and one extra. He didn't know if she would accept it, but something inside him, something quiet and steady, told him to go back. The garage was open again. Same smell of oil and metal, same tools, and there she was, tying her bun back as she stood over an old pickup truck. Her face looked more tired than yesterday. He didn't say anything, just walked in and placed the sandwich on the bench. She looked at it, then at him. "You're back. Figured you might not have had breakfast." Her eyes narrowed slightly. Pride and hunger wrestled behind them. Then, finally, she sat on the edge of the bench and opened the sandwich. She didn't thank him with words. She thanked him by eating. After a few bites, she spoke. "You ever fix cars?" "Just motorcycles," he said. "But I can hold a wrench." She tossed him a rag. "I'll put you to work then. Don't stand there looking pretty." Keanu smiled. For the next hour, they worked together. She gave orders like a commander. He followed without question. They barely spoke, but the silence between them felt safe, not awkward, not cold, just real. After the truck was done, Elena wiped her forehead and leaned against the workbench. "You always like helping strangers?" she asked. "Not always," Keanu said, "but I listened to my gut." "What's it telling you now?" Keanu looked at her for a moment. She wasn't being flirtatious. She was being honest, testing him. "It's telling me," he said softly, "you've been carrying too much alone." She looked down at her hands. Her fingers were rough and stained. Then she said something that nearly broke him again. "When my dad died, we lost the house. My mom left, just packed up one day and never came back. I was 17. My sister was 9. Keanu's heart dropped. I dropped out of school, got a job at a gas station. Then the owner saw me fix a flat tire in under 5 minutes, gave me a spot in the garage." "You've been working ever since?" Keanu asked. She nodded. "Every single day. My sister's all I got. I don't have time to be tired, or sad, or anything." Really, he didn't know what to say. So he didn't say anything. Instead, he pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Texting someone I trust," he said. "You need more than just one customer. I'm not asking for charity." She said quickly, "I know," Keanu replied. "You're not asking for anything. That's why you deserve help." Before she could protest, a small bell rang at the door. Another customer. Elena stood up straight, wiped her hands again, and walked over. Her face changed completely. She wore a professional look. Firm, focused. It was like watching a soldier put on armor. Keanu watched from the bench. He could see now what most people would miss. Elena didn't just fix cars. She carried people, silently, every day. After the customer left, Elena looked at Keanu again. "You're weird," she said. "Why?" "Most guys who ride bikes don't talk this much," he chuckled. "Most girls who fix engines don't hide how amazing they are." Her eyes flickered for a second, like maybe, just maybe, someone had seen her for the first time in years. "You said your sister's 9. Keanu asked. "She's 10 now," Elena said. "But she's more like 30. She's smarter than me, kind too. Always telling me it's gonna be okay, even when it's not." "What's her name?" "Maria." Keanu's smile softened. "You ever take her out somewhere, like a fun day, just the two of you?" Elena laughed quietly, but there was no joy in it. "Fun costs money. Fun is a luxury." Keanu nodded slowly. He didn't make promises, but his mind was already racing. Because Keanu had seen many people in his life. But Elena, she was different. She reminded him of his own sister, and he wasn't going to walk away this time. The notebook and the whisper. Next morning, Keanu showed up even earlier. This time, he didn't bring just sandwiches. He brought a small paper bag filled with 2 cartons of juice, 3 apples, and a notebook with a simple sticker on the front that read, "Dreams don't expire." He wasn't sure if Elena would accept it. He wasn't even sure why he had picked that notebook. Maybe because when he held it, he thought of her, of Maria, of everything they hadn't been able to say out loud. When he walked in, Elena was already under the hood of another truck, music playing low on an old radio. She glanced over. "You again? Hope I'm not annoying yet." She smirked. "You crossed that line yesterday." He set the bag down quietly and didn't push anything toward her. She noticed the notebook anyway. Her eyes paused on it, then looked away quickly. "I don't write," she muttered. "You don't have to," Keanu said. "But maybe Maria does." She didn't answer, just went back to work. But Keanu saw her shoulders soften slightly. A small crack in the armor. After an hour, they both took a break. Keanu sat on a crate. Elena poured water into a tin cup and leaned against the wall beside him. You ever wonder why people come into your life when they do? She asked suddenly. Keanu turned toward her. Sometimes, but I try not to question it too much. I used to believe in signs, she whispered. But after everything, I stopped. What made you stop? She didn't speak for a long moment. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, I was 14 when I got a full scholarship to a private school. Best thing that ever happened to me. I was going to be an engineer, maybe even a pilot. But then life changed. What happened? My dad had a heart attack in the kitchen. I was the only one home. I called 911, but the ambulance was late. By the time they got there, he was gone. After that, I didn't care about school. I couldn't. I had to work. I had to protect Maria. Keanu sat in silence, heart heavy. You were just a kid, he said quietly. I didn't have time to be a kid, she replied. They both looked ahead, not speaking for a while. The air felt thick, like a secret shared, but still too painful to touch. Then Keanu asked, Can I meet Maria? Elena's eyes narrowed. Why? Because I want to bring her something. She's shy. I'll be gentle. Elena hesitated. Her fingers drummed against her jeans. She wasn't used to people offering kindness without strings. But something in Keanu's voice made her believe he meant it. Come by after 6, she said finally. We live in the back. That evening, Keanu returned. The garage had a small door at the far end that led to a narrow hallway. It smelled of old paint and dust. Elena opened it and let him through. The space behind the garage was cramped. 2 small rooms, 1 flickering bulb, and a thin curtain that separated the beds. Maria peeked out from behind it. She was tiny, her eyes wide, wearing a shirt too big for her, but her smile was warm. Keanu crouched down and held out the notebook. I heard you might like to write, he said. Maria looked at her sister, who nodded softly. Then she stepped forward, took the notebook gently, and said in the smallest voice, Thank you. Keanu grinned. You're welcome. He stayed for an hour. Maria showed him a small drawing she had made to stick figures fixing a car together. One had long hair, the other wore sunglasses. That's me, she said, pointing. And that's my hero. Keanu looked closer. Your sister? Maria shook her head. No, my sister's the one drawing. The hero is the man who brought sandwiches. Elena turned away quickly. She didn't want them to see her eyes welling up. After Keanu left, she sat alone for a while. You okay? Maria asked softly. Elena nodded. I didn't expect any of this. Maria opened the notebook and pointed to a page she had already started. On it, in simple block letters, were the words, Maybe kindness still exists. Keanu didn't know it yet, but something he had carried in his heart for years, something wounded and wordless, had begun to heal. And tomorrow, he would return with a question that would change everything. Asterisk the old photo, and the storm insideth. Next morning, Keanu rode through town with a different feeling in his chest. He had met many people in his life, actors, directors, strangers, from every walk of life. But there was something about Elena and Maria that stayed with him longer. Their silence had weight, their words carried truth, and Maria's little drawing, with that small sentence, maybe kindness still exists, had echoed in his mind all night like a quiet bell in an empty room. He arrived at the garage with a cup of coffee in each hand and a small envelope in his jacket pocket. Elena was already under another car, her face smudged, hands greasy. She saw him and shook her head. If you keep showing up like this, people will think you work here. Maybe I do, he said with a grin. I brought backup. He handed her the coffee, and for a second, just a second, she looked soft, human, lighter than before. You don't have to do this, she said. I know, Keanu answered. That's why I am. They worked side by side for a while. A loose bolt, a dusty air filter, an old battery that needed replacing. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt real. Keanu liked the rhythm of it. It reminded him of his childhood days when things were simple, before the fame, before the pain. Then, while Elena was changing out a fuse, a gust of wind blew through the open garage. Something small fluttered out from her tool drawer and landed near Keanu's feet. He picked it up gently. It was a photo, faded and bent at the corners. It showed a man with strong arms holding two little girls. Both were laughing. One of them, clearly Elena, couldn't have been more than 5. Keanu looked at the man's face and felt his breath catch. Elena turned quickly. "Give me that." He handed it back without a word, but the silence between them cracked wide open. "That's your dad?" he asked gently. Double quotes, "Yeah," she said, putting the photo away. "He was everything. He looks kind." He was. He used to say real strength is being gentle when the world tells you to be hard. Keanu nodded slowly. "I never met my dad." Elena looked up. "He left before I could remember him," Keanu said. "But I had a friend, someone who raised me like a big brother. He was a mechanic, too, taught me how to fix bikes. He used to keep a photo of us in his shirt pocket, just like that." "Where is he now?" "Gone," Keanu whispered. "Same as your dad." Heart gave out one winter morning. No warning. Elena didn't say anything. They just stood there, in that quiet garage, letting their shared grief wrap around them. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "Me too." And then he did something unexpected. He pulled the envelope from his pocket and handed it to her. "What is this?" Elena asked, frowning. "Just open it." Inside were 5 crisp $100 bills. Her face changed instantly. She stepped back. "What is this for?" "For you. For Maria. For food. For maybe a break." "I told you," she said sharply, voice rising. "I don't take handouts. This isn't a handout." Keanu said quietly, "It's a thank you. For fixing my bike. For fixing something else in me, too." She was breathing hard now, her hands clenched. Her pride was burning in her chest. "You think you can just walk in here with your kindness and fix our lives?" Keanu didn't flinch. He just said, "No, but maybe I can remind you you're not alone." The anger in her eyes melted slowly, and in its place came something more painful: grief, exhaustion, the kind that comes from carrying the weight of 2 lives every day without rest. She sat down on the bench and held the envelope tightly, like it might disappear if she let go. "You don't know what it's like," she whispered, "to wake up wondering if you'll have enough to feed a child. To work until your fingers bleed just to keep a roof over your heads." Keanu sat beside her. "You're right. I don't know your pain, but I know loss. I know silence. And I know what it means to keep going when it feels like nobody sees you." They sat together in that stillness, the kind only shared by people who've tasted sorrow and survived it. "You're different," she said. "So are you." Later that evening, Keanu knocked softly on their back door. Maria opened it. She was holding the notebook and smiling wide. "I drew something else," she said proudly. Keanu walked in and sat beside her. She turned the page. This time, the drawing showed 3 figures. 1 girl, 1 woman, and 1 man with a motorcycle. Above it, in big letters, it read, "The man who brought light into our garage." Keanu couldn't speak. He simply closed his eyes for a second and let the warmth fill him. The man in the car, and the truth she never told. Next morning started like the others, quiet, still, with the smell of fresh oil in the air. Keanu arrived early again. He brought breakfast for Maria and more tools for the garage. Elena didn't ask questions anymore. She didn't try to push him away. Something had shifted between them, gently and slowly, like dawn touching the edges of a long, cold night. But today, something was different. As Keanu handed Elena a wrench, and they worked on a sputtering sedan together, he noticed her eyes kept drifting toward the street, not with curiosity, with unease. "Everything okay?" he asked. She didn't answer at first. Then she muttered, "I saw a black car this morning, parked across the road, just sitting there." Keanu followed her gaze. The car was gone now, but the worry in her voice remained. "You know who it was?" Elena tightened a bolt to hard. "I think so." Keanu didn't press her, not yet, but the silence that followed was heavier than usual. An hour later, while Keanu played with Maria, in the back helping her draw a motorcycle with wings, Elena stood near the garage door and saw it again, the same black car, dark windows, parked just beyond the stop sign. Her heart sank. Memories rushed in, not from childhood but from 3 years ago. A man with cold eyes, expensive clothes, and a voice that smiled while making threats. His name was Derek Morris. He used to be her mother's boyfriend. When their mom left, he came back looking for something. Not love, not help, but a signature on a piece of paper that would sell the garage their dad left them. Eleanor refused. She was barely 18 at the time, but she stood her ground. Derek had laughed in her face, called her names, told her the garage would be his soon anyway. She had forgotten him over time, or maybe just buried him in the back of her memory. Until now, that night, when Keanu knocked again with a box of books for Maria, Eleanor looked different. She wasn't just tired, she was scared. "I need to tell you something," she said. They sat at the small table inside. Maria was asleep, her little hand resting on the notebook like it was a treasure. Eleanor began slowly. "A few years ago, someone tried to take this garage from us, said my mom owed money, said he had rights, but the papers weren't real. He forged everything. I fought him. I even talked to a legal aid center. They helped me stall the process. But now," Keanu leaned forward. "He's back." She nodded. "I think he found us again. Maybe he found out the case got reopened. What does he want now? The building? The land? He thinks it's worth something. And he knows I can't afford a lawyer to fight him." Keanu's jaw tightened. "Have you seen him face to face?" "Not yet. But I know it's him. He doesn't let go." Keanu stood up, walked to the window, and stared out into the night. Something stirred in him, not anger, not fear, something deeper, something protective. He turned back to her. "You won't face this alone." Eleanor looked away. "I've been alone so long. I don't even know how to trust that. Start with this." He said gently. "Tomorrow morning, we go see someone a friend of mine," he said. "Someone who knows law better than anyone. Keanu, no arguments. You saved me when you fixed my bike. Now it's my turn." For the first time since he'd met her, Eleanor looked like she wanted to cry, but not from sadness, from relief. The kind that comes when someone finally stands beside you after years of standing alone. The next morning, as the sun crept over the rooftops, they rode into the city. Maria stayed with a trusted neighbor. Keanu and Eleanor sat across from a woman in a sharp gray suit named Claire Tanner. She didn't ask many questions, just took notes, read the documents Eleanor brought, and nodded slowly. "You've got a case," Claire said. "A strong one. If he pushes, we'll push back harder." Eleanor looked stunned. "How much will this cost?" She whispered. Keanu reached out and placed his hand gently over hers. "It's already taken care of." That night, back at the garage, Maria ran into Eleanor's arms and whispered, "Did you fix it?" Eleanor smiled for the first time in days. "Not yet," she said, "but we're getting close." As they sat outside under the stars, Keanu spoke softly. "I've spent a long time looking for something real," he said, "and I think I found it in a greasy garage, with two sisters who never stopped fighting." Eleanor looked at him. "You saved us," she said. "But..." Keanu shook his head. "No," he whispered. "You saved me." The final stand, and the words that shattered him. Knock was slow and heavy. It echoed through the thin walls of the garage like thunder rolling into early. Eleanor paused before opening the door. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she didn't want Keanu to see. She glanced back at Maria, who sat on the small bed clutching her notebook tight. Keanu stepped beside her without a word. Just presence, solid, calm, ready. She opened the door. Derek Morris stood outside, wearing a black coat and dark sunglasses, though the sun had already set. Behind him stood two men, silent, tall, and clearly meant to intimidate. He smiled like a man who thought he had already won. "Eleanor," he said smoothly, "still living in this rust bucket." Keanu stepped forward. "You need to leave." Derek tilted his head. "And you are someone who doesn't like bullies." Derek laughed. "You know what I like? Signatures, especially on ownership documents. But Eleanor here, she's been very stubborn. You know, she's squatting on property that legally doesn't belong to her." "That's a lie," Eleanor said. "It's paperwork," Derek snapped, "and my lawyers will eat you alive." Keanu stepped between them. His voice didn't rise. It dropped lower, steadier. "You already lost," he said. "We filed the counterclaim this morning. Your forged deeds won't hold. And if you try anything illegal, the police are already informed." Derek's smirk faltered for the first time. You think I'm scared of court? You should be. Keanu replied. Because this time, she's not alone. Derek's jaw tightened. He looked from Keanu to Elena, then to the small window where Maria peeked out with wide, frightened eyes. This isn't over, Derek hissed. Yes, Elena said firmly. It is. She shut the door slowly, not with fear, with finality. Inside, Maria ran to her sister. Was that the man? Yes, Elena said, kneeling down. But he's not coming back. Keanu placed a hand on Elena's shoulder. Her breathing was uneven. Her strength had held, but now it was slipping out all at once. He stayed with them through the night. They didn't talk much. Maria eventually fell asleep with her notebook beside her. Elena made tea from an old box of bags she kept for cold nights. Keanu sat beside her on the porch, both of them wrapped in quiet. I always thought people like you lived in a different world, she said softly. Far away from people like me. I used to, Keanu replied. But it was a lonely world. She looked at him, the stars reflected in her tired eyes. You changed our lives, she whispered. Keanu shook his head. You changed mine. He said, you reminded me what real strength looks like. It's not in cameras or crowds. It's in a girl who fixes engines with bruised hands and still finds a way to smile at her sister. She blinked quickly. Don't make me cry now. Then don't, he said, smiling gently. Just breathe. 2 weeks later, the court dismissed Derek's claim entirely. The forged documents were exposed. His reputation was destroyed. He left town quietly, for good. Claire made sure the garage was permanently marked as protected property, under Elena's rightful ownership. And something else changed too. Keanu didn't leave. Not right away. He came back every morning, sometimes just to sit, sometimes to help, sometimes to listen. One evening, as Maria read out loud from a book Keanu had brought her, Elena stepped outside and watched the sunset. Keanu joined her. What now? He asked. We keep living, she said. We keep fixing what's broken. We keep trying. He nodded. I never told you what Maria said to me after the night you brought her that notebook. What did she say? She said, he doesn't just fix engines, Elena. He fixes the sadness in people too. Keanu didn't speak. He turned away quickly. Because that was the moment. His heart broke in the quietest, deepest way. Not from pain, from grace. Because all his life, he had tried to be invisible, kind in silence, helpful without needing to be seen. And yet, this little girl, this simple mechanic, they saw him, not as a celebrity. Not as a name, but as a man trying to heal, one gentle act at a time. Elena reached out and took his hand. Thank you, she said. Not for the money, not for the lawyers, for staying, for listening, for being the kind of man my father would have trusted. He squeezed her hand back, eyes misted. Your father would be proud of you, he whispered. She smiled. And for the first time in years, it wasn't a smile made of survival. It was a smile made of peace. The next morning, Maria opened her notebook and showed Keanu a new drawing. It showed a garage. Inside it, a girl with oil on her face, a little sister with stars in her eyes, and a man standing beside them. Above it, in bold letters, she had written, family isn't who you're born with. It's who stands beside you when everything breaks. Keanu stared at it for a long time. Then, without saying a word, he pulled out a pen and signed his name next to theirs. Not as a star, not as a guest, but as someone who was finally home.